So, picture this. I'm sitting in the doctor's office, right? White walls, that weird antiseptic smell that makes you feel like you're in a crime scene cleanup commercial, and a doctor who looks like he hasn't slept since 2007. He's got this clipboard in his hand, and he's staring at me like I just told him I've been secretly living in his attic for the past 6 months. Then he drops the bomb. You have cancer. Cool, great, awesome. My brain immediately goes into overdrive. Do I cry? Do I scream? Do I Google how to build a time machine so I can go back and never eat that suspicious gas station sushi? But no, I decide to be an adult. I'm going to call my parents. Because, that's what you do when your life is falling apart. You call the people who brought you into this mess in the first place. The doctor keeps talking, but I'm not really listening. Something about treatment options and survival rates, but all I can think is, I'm too young for this. I haven't even finished my Netflix queue yet. He hands me a pamphlet titled, "So, you have cancer, now what?" like it's a lifeline. I stuff it into my bag, already planning to use it as a coaster later. I leave the office in a daze, clutching my phone like it's the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. The parking lot is eerily quiet, like the universe is holding its breath, waiting to see how I'll react. Spoiler alert, I don't react well. I sit in my car for what feels like hours, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Do I look like I have cancer? I don't know what I'm expecting. Maybe a glowing neon sign on my forehead that says, "Terminally ill, handle with care." Finally, I muster the courage to call my mum. No answer. I call my dad. No answer. I call my mum again. Still no answer. By the 20th call, I'm spiraling. Are they dead? Did they finally achieve their dream of becoming one with the couch? Or worse, are they ignoring me? I leave increasingly dramatic voicemails. The first one is like, "Hey, just calling to chat." By the 20th, it's more like, "I have cancer, please call me back." Still nothing. Not even a text. Just silence. Crickets. The kind of silence that makes you question if you were actually adopted from a family of ghosts. I start imagining all the possible reasons they're not answering. Maybe they're on a cruise, blissfully unaware that their only child is falling apart. Maybe they're in a Great British Bake Off marathon, arguing over whether the thermostat should be set to Arctic tundra or surface of the sun. Or maybe, and this is the one that really gets me, they just don't care. I go home to my apartment, which is a mess because, well, life. I host a one-woman pity party, tears, ice cream, and a playlist of sad Taylor Swift songs. I stare at my phone, willing it to ring. It doesn't. I'm your only child. How can you not care? Am I adopted? Did you find me in a cabbage patch? At this point, I'm not even sad about the cancer anymore. I'm just mad. So, I do what any rational, emotionally neglected adult would do. I leave the country. That's right. I pack a suitcase, book a one-way ticket to literally anywhere that's not here, and peace out. I'm talking full-on eat, pray, love vibes, except instead of finding myself, I'm mostly just trying to avoid the fact that my parents probably wouldn't notice if I got abducted by aliens. My apartment is a disaster zone. There's a pile of laundry in the corner that's been there so long it's practically part of the furniture. The sink is full of dishes, and I'm pretty sure there's a science experiment growing in the fridge. But none of that matters now. I'm hosting a pity party, and the guest list is exclusive. Just me, my tears, and a pint of Ben and Jerry's. I crank up the sad Taylor Swift playlist and let the tears flow. Why is this happening to me? Why don't my parents care? Why does ice cream taste so good but make me feel so bad? I'm a mess, but at least I'm a mess with good taste in music. I stare at my phone, willing it to ring. It doesn't. I'm your only child. How can you not care? Am I adopted? Did you find me in a cabbage patch? I start Googling How to tell if you're adopted, which leads me down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and questionable parenting forums. Spoiler alert, I don't find any answers, but I do learn way too much about the dark side of the internet. At some point, I fall asleep on the couch, surrounded by empty ice cream containers and crumpled tissues. When I wake up, it's dark outside and my phone is still silent. That's when I make the decision. I'm leaving. I can't stay here, in this apartment, in this city, in this life. I need to get away, to start over, to find people who actually care. I pack a suitcase with all the essentials: clothes, toiletries, and a framed photo of my cat, because, obviously. I book a one-way ticket to a random European village I found on Google after searching most peaceful places to disappear. I write a passive-aggressive note to my parents. Gone to find people who actually care. Don't call me. As I'm leaving, I take one last look around my apartment. It's a mess, but it's my mess. For a moment, I feel a pang of sadness. What if I never come back? What if this is the last time I see this place? But then I remember the silence, the unanswered calls, the voicemails that went ignored. That sadness turns to anger and I slam the door behind me. The airport is a blur of noise and chaos. I check my bag, go through security, and board the plane with a sense of determination I haven't felt in years. As the plane takes off, I look out the window at the city below. Goodbye, old life. Hello, new adventure. The village is like something out of a fairy tale, if fairy tales included Wi-Fi and questionable plumbing. Cobblestone streets, flower boxes overflowing with blooms, and old ladies who look like they could kill you with a single glance. I step off the bus with my suitcase in one hand and a sense of existential dread in the other. I check into a charming but slightly run-down bed and breakfast run by an eccentric old woman named Greta. She's about 4 feet tall, smells vaguely of lavender, and speaks broken English with an accent so thick I'm pretty sure she's making half of it up. She eyes me suspiciously as I introduce myself with a fake name. I'm, Claire. Yeah, Claire. Greta nods, seemingly unimpressed, and leads me to my room. It's small, but cosy, with a bed that looks like it hasn't been updated since the 1800s, and a window that offers a view of the village square. I drop my suitcase and collapse onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. What am I even doing here? I don't have an answer, but for the first time in weeks, I feel a tiny flicker of something that might be hope. Or maybe it's just indigestion from the questionable airplane food. The next morning, I find a cafe in the village square. It's the kind of place that looks like it was designed specifically for Instagram influencers, with mismatched chairs, chalkboard menus, and a barista who looks like he moonlights as a model. I order an espresso and sit at a table by the window, sipping my drink and pretending to be the star of my own indie film. I people watch, making up backstories for the villagers. That guy with the moustache? Definitely a retired spy. The woman with the cat? Probably a witch. I try to learn the local language, but mostly end up saying things like, "Where is the bathroom?" and "I have cancer," because why not? The barista gives me a weird look when I accidentally order a cup of sadness instead of a cappuccino. But hey, at least I'm trying. As the days go by, the cafe becomes my sanctuary. I spend hours there, sipping espresso and scribbling in a journal I bought at the village market. It's mostly filled with random thoughts and doodles, but it's therapeutic in a way I didn't expect. Maybe this is what healing feels like, I think, as I sketch a picture of Greta scowling at a pot of soup. One day, I walk past a tiny hair salon with a sign that says, "New look, new life," in shaky handwriting. I don't know if it's the sign or the fact that I'm feeling particularly reckless, but I decide to go for it. I sit down in the chair and tell the stylist, a woman named Ingrid with a pixie cut and a no-nonsense attitude, to do something dramatic. An hour later, I emerge with a haircut that can only be described as edgy chic. My long, boring hair is gone, replaced by a sleek bob with bangs that make me look like a French movie star. Or at least, that's what I tell myself. If I'm going to die, I might as well look fabulous doing it. I strut back to the bed and breakfast, feeling like a new person. Greta takes one look at me and says, "You look less sad. Good." It's the closest thing to a compliment I've gotten in weeks, and I'll take it. Just as I'm starting to settle into my new life, my phone buzzes. It's a text from my mum. "Hey, sweetie, just checking in." I stare at the screen, my stomach churning. "Oh, now you miss me. Now you want to talk. Where were you when I was crying into my ice cream?" The texts keep coming, each one more guilt-trippy than the last. "We miss you. Call us and hope you're doing well." I ignore them, but they're like a mosquito buzzing in my ear, annoying and impossible to fully ignore. I start to wonder if they finally realised I'm gone, or if they're just bored and looking for someone to nag. The village hosts a quirky festival involving cheese, folk dancing, and a lot of wine. Greta insists I participate, and before I know it, I'm standing in the middle of the square, wearing a ridiculous hat and holding a wheel of cheese. Somehow, I end up winning the cheese-eating contest. The villagers cheer and someone crowns me cheese queen. It's absurd and ridiculous, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I belong somewhere. This is not how I imagined my life going. But, okay. Just as I'm starting to settle into my new life, my parents show up in the village. I'm sitting at the cafe, sipping my third espresso of the day and pretending to read a book about finding inner peace. Spoiler, it's not working, when I see them. They're standing in the middle of the square, looking around like they've just landed on Mars. My mum is holding a map upside down, and my dad is squinting at a street sign like it's written in hieroglyphics. My first instinct is to duck under the table and hope they don't see me. But then my mum spots me, and her face lights up like she's just won the lottery. "Mia!" she shouts, waving the map like a flag. Oh, great. The ghosts have finally decided to haunt me. They make their way over to the cafe, and I brace myself for the inevitable awkwardness. "What are you doing here?" I ask, trying to sound casual and not at all like I'm freaking out inside. My mum launches into a long explanation about how they tracked me down using my credit card statements, because of course they did, and how they've been so worried about me. "Oh, now you're worried? Where were you when I was crying into my ice cream?" We have a dramatic showdown in the middle of the village square. The villagers stop what they're doing to watch because apparently my family drama is the most exciting thing that's happened here in years. My parents explained that they were on a silent meditation retreat and didn't get my messages until it was too late. A silent meditation retreat? Are you kidding me? I was over here having a full-blown existential crisis, and you were busy finding your inner peace. I let it all out. The cancer, the fear, the feeling of being ignored. My voice shakes and I can feel the tears coming. But I don't care. For the first time in my life, I'm not holding back. "Do you have any idea how it feels to call your parents 20 times and get no answer?" I shout. "Do you know what it's like to feel like you don't matter?" My mum looks like she's about to cry, and my dad is staring at the ground like he's trying to figure out how to disappear. "We're so sorry, Mia," my mum says, her voice trembling. "We didn't know. We would never have ignored you if we'd known." It's the first time I've ever heard my parents apologise like this, and it hits me harder than I expected. It's about freaking time. The dam breaks and I start crying. Ugly, snotty, can't breathe crying. My mum pulls me into a hug, and for once, it doesn't feel awkward or forced. It feels real. My dad puts a hand on my shoulder, and even though he doesn't say much, I can tell he's trying. We sit down on a bench in the square, and I tell them everything. The diagnosis, the treatment options, the fear of what's going to happen next. They listen, really listen, and for the first time in my life, I feel like they're actually seeing me, not just as their daughter, but as a person with her own struggles and fears. "We're here for you, Mia," my mum says, squeezing my hand. "Whatever you need, we're here." It's not a perfect moment. There's still a lot of unresolved tension and years of miscommunication. But it's a start. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like maybe, just maybe, things are going to be okay. After the emotional showdown, I decide to stay in the village for a while longer, but this time with my parents by my side. They help me navigate my treatment, which involves a lot of phone calls to doctors and awkward conversations about side effects. My mum insists on cooking me healthy meals that mostly consist of boiled vegetables and quinoa, and my dad spends hours researching alternative therapies that may or may not involve essential oils and chanting. It's not perfect. There are still moments when I want to scream at them for not being there when I needed them most. But it's progress, and for the first time in my life, I feel like we're actually a family. We even joined the next village festival together. My dad surprises everyone by winning the cheese rolling contest, and my mum somehow convinces Greta to teach her how to make traditional pastries. I watch them from the sidelines, sipping a glass of wine and feeling a weird sense of pride. Okay, maybe they're not the worst, but I'm still not telling them my real name. I sit at the cafe, sipping espresso and watching the sunset. The village square is quiet now, the festival over and the villagers back to their normal routines. My parents are sitting at a table nearby, arguing over whether the thermostat in their hotel room is set to Arctic tundra or surface of the sun. Some things never change. I reflect on everything that's happened, the diagnosis, the unanswered calls, the escape to this tiny village, and the unexpected arrival of my parents. It's been a wild ride, full of chaos and heartbreak and moments of absurdity, but somehow I've come out the other side. Life is messy and people are flawed, but maybe that's okay. Maybe the mess is what makes it real. And maybe, just maybe, I've found a weird kind of peace in the middle of it all. As I take the last sip of my espresso, I can't help but smile. Also, I'm definitely keeping the nickname Cheese Queen.